We've all heard that the early bird gets the worm. But does being first always mean being better? In business, there's a lot of pressure to move fast, adopt the newest thing, and get ahead of the competition. While plenty of successful people and companies seem to thrive by waiting, watching, and making their move later. In this episode of The Bounce Rate, we're talking about early risers, night owls, early adopters, and latecomers to see when timing really creates an advantage. I'm taking all of us here value punctuality.
Yes. And attendance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
So one thing that I know, so growing up, my sister had a probably irrational fear of lateness. I mean, she would like throw tantrums about it. And my mom also didn't want to be late. We were very much like, we have to be someplace 15 minutes early. It was not until I moved to California for a little bit that I realized that in some cultures, in some families, it really is not a priority.
Oh my God. They drive me crazy. Yeah. Do you have that friend? Like, I bet we can all name that friend who is consistently 10 minutes late.
Me.
Every single time.
Me.
Really?
What is wrong with you? Just leave 10 minutes earlier.
In my house, like, not when it's applied to like business functions, of course, all on time and everything. But socially, we would get mad at my parents because we would always be the casually late people, you know? And so like
I am
that's
sorry
carried
our
over.
listeners cannot see the disappointment in my face.
Oh, my friends hate it. And my wife and my kids, and I don't know, it's in me though. It's in me deep down.
Are you establishing your alpha male pattern by dictating?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
You know what though is because you get her earlier than me, it doesn't even register with me that you.
Well, like I said though, for anything
late from
professional,
work,
like I live and die by my calendar, and it's all fine. But social, I don't know what it is. Something just turns off in the mind. You know what I mean?
Now, do you find yourself late to things that you love doing? Like, look, I'm not a surfman. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about it. But if you're scheduled to go, or if waves are the best at a certain time, do you find yourself?
I'll be there, and that's different, right? Like,
how?
Because surf, you want to get the best surf, you have to pay attention, you have to be there. A social event, it says it starts at 5. You get there at 5.
It's not going.
It's not going because people like me are late.
You want to wait until you want to just come in and in mid stride as things are happening.
I want to walk in and be like, hey, what's up? Hey.
And maybe that's why at business you can be on time, is because like in business, most things start right away. You get into it immediately.
Look, here we go. We're figuring it out.
I think we've got it. I think we've got it.
That's all for the no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I don't think there's a correlation here, but when I carry this over to, I'm going to talk about marketing. I typically don't want to be the early bird, and let me make sure I define what that means. If we're looking at Google AdWords, right, and they're releasing a new feature, I typically don't want to be in that beta test because it doesn't always work out so well, right? I want to see what happens and then dive in once I know people are having success. Of course, you can miss the worm sometimes on that, but for the most part, I feel like that's a pretty solid strategy, and that's what I've used throughout my career.
I work for a brand that it was a very small niche, and there were only 2 competitors that were in this market space. And they said, we have to dominate the Google ads. We have to make sure that we're in the top place and that we stay there. And so this company became, we were running ads, not getting any leads from the ads, but it was so important to them that we were the first ones, that we were the early ones, so that it was harder for the other one to gain a footing in the world of PPC. And I thought it was interesting because it made me think, was this really worth it? We were spending hundreds and hundreds of, it ended up being thousands a month on PPC ads just so we can be the first ones to do it. And I always kind of struck me as, well, why? Like, then let them be the first one to have to do it. But the hope that there could be a lead was made it so that we felt like it was exclusive. We had to take it.
Yeah, I am definitely a sit, watch, and wait person. That's one of the conversations that I like to have with people about social media, because they'll talk, well, I got to have social media so that I get the frontline news. I'm like, there is no frontline news I need. I need it to go through somebody who's going to vet it and then do some analysis on it, give me context, let's figure it out. I don't need the instantaneous blow by blow. I did hear, though, another term that I really like, and for technology as a computer person and somebody that likes gadgets and so forth, I do really like this concept, especially for your phone. It's leapfrogging. So a leapfrogger goes and buys very close to the cutting edge of technology, but then they sit on it for 3 or 4 versions. So, and that really does describe me. I will go figure out, hey, what's the real phone? Like, one thing I would like is one of those foldable screen phones. Yes. They're just way too expensive. But I would be willing to give that a shot. But once I spent that money, I'm not changing phones for years. And then the next time it comes back, so I will leapfrog up to close to the cutting edge every time I
think you could put me in that bucket as well.
Yeah.
I think that sums it up for me.
So, little mini question. If you are hosting a party and it starts at 7 and 6:59, you have friends come and they're the first ones there, and they come and they're like, hey, what can we do? What can we do to help? How do you feel? Do you feel like, oh, that's great that they were the first ones? Or do you feel like, okay, well, gosh.
No, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm like, hey, great, you're here. Like, help do this or just relax. I don't have a problem with people being early or being on time to a social event. I'm not that person.
I'm more like, oh, thank God somebody came.
You're just like, it's a relief.
Because otherwise I'm going to have a lot of guacamole.
That's true. You waited a lot, to the...
Yeah.
Flip the switch here for, say, a business. Is there any benefit, or is it worthy of a conversation to try to get your customers to be the early bird with you versus the watch and wait?
I guess I'd need to know what you mean by that.
It could apply to a variety of situations, but say you're running a special, right? Or you launch a new item. Do you want people to early adopt, be the early bird? Or does it matter if they watch and wait and see if other people? I don't even know if that's,
Yeah, so it really depends. If you're talking about flattening out demand, so the most obvious thing that comes to my mind is a restaurant. Restaurants would very much appreciate having a bunch of early birds and a bunch of late risers to flatten out the demand so that there's not a line, so that your staff isn't crazy overworked just for 2 hours, but then they straggle on until you closing, or, at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's really nobody, but you still have to be open and so forth. So I think generally speaking, you want to mix. And I know a lot of people, that's what early bird specials are for, is to try to get people in who don't mind eating at 4, present company included, so that we can flatten that out. So it's definitely worth money to have fewer people coming at 6:30, because I'm willing to incentivize for that. If it's talking about things like I'm launching a new service or product or something like that, I think it kind of depends on how well developed that is. If it's a new dish and you think the dish is good, you want everybody to jump on it as much as possible, because they'll start getting word of mouth, and that's what's going to get it popular and make it happen. If you question it, if you really wonder, does paprika really belong on a cinnamon roll, you might want a smaller group of people to try that out and sort of, limp that in so that you get feedback and can refine it later.
You raise an interesting point, because what is the tie between early birds and social proof? Where if you're hosting a party and you invite a bunch of people and there's a couple that comes the moment the party starts. They're the only ones. They did not need a text that says, "Hey, James's party is off the hook. Y'all should come here." So I think there's going to be situations like that where, let's say I run a car wash and I came up with a new type of scent that stays in your car even longer. It's the new car smell stays even longer. There's going to be people that see that, think it's cool, but say, I'm not going to be the first one that does this because what if it sucks? And so it's important when you do have those early adopters, the ones that like it, you need to mobilize them to share that social proof, to inspire those latecomers, which I think the majority of us are. The majority of us want to know, does this iPad work before we, invest that money?
Yeah, I like that insight. I know it took us off track there a little bit, but just
No. I think that's good. I think what always occurs to me is movie releases. Are you guys a see the premiere kind of person?
I am not.
So this is an interesting take because there's certain things that anything Batman, I will see the moment it comes out. I will be the first one to see it.
Is there a new Batman in the works right now?
Yes.
Felt like there was. Who's Batman?
Robert Pattinson. They're making a sequel to that movie, but there's also going to be a Batman in the Superman James Gunn universe that they're working on. So we're going to have dual Batmans. It's going to be great. And I've been dreaming about this. But for me, I will consume Batman media whether or not someone says, this one wasn't great or not, because I love Batman so much. There's other things like Star Wars, where I used to watch every Star Wars thing the moment it came out. And now I didn't even see that Mandalorian Grogu movie.
No.
Sorry to Disney if you were looking to sponsor this episode. I did not see that. I'm waiting for it to come on streaming.
But we could become ardent, huge fans if they so chose to sponsor us at Disney World. Probably Disneyland, actually.
We'll do a live episode. We'll do a live episode of Disneyland. But either way, I'm not an early bird. I'm not an early adopter when it comes to that media. I'm going to wait until I hear people say that they like it or if there's anything special. So yeah, there's two sides of the coin.
What's the cost of being an early bird? Like if somebody is an early adopter of a lot of stuff, especially for local business, if they're always looking to get on the next thing, what's the cost to that? And what's the cost if what's the opposite of an early bird? A latecomer? If I'm a latecomer, oversleeper, whatever, if I'm the late person, what's the potential cost there?
So interested. I think on the consumer side, it kind of boils down to a psychology, right? Being the first there, going to the premiere. There's something about being the first. Like, I don't know, whereas other people might not care as much, right? Like, I'm going to see it. Who cares if I see it that week or 2 weeks later, right? Or taste it or whatever. On the business side, when I'm going to go to marketing, the cost of being the first to try out this new service, Google Ads, for example, releases, like you could get the worm, right? You could be one of the first people to really reap the benefits, but majority of the times it might be a little bit of a waste of money, right? So I don't know how that averages out at the end.
In event marketing, you literally have early bird pricing because they know this is a new thing and it could go either way.
When you want to get to critical mass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. If you can, let's say you've got this special, let's say you've got this event, the more people you get in, the more momentum you can build and the more successful overall it can be by the end. And yeah, sometimes like you'll start something and it's slow going. And then I've had situations like that where I have a running event that the first, we have 10 events. The first 7 is just the word getting out. People are like, oh yeah, this is okay. And then the last 2 or 3 people actually came and they go, oh, it's a shame it's ending. I wish I'd known about this.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question right? Because you were talking about the risk reward of early birds versus latecomers.
I think,
or not correct, but was
well,
that what you were thinking?
where I was thinking about it is if I think of a business owner who is an early bird, I'm going to say in this particular case, they're quick to keep jumping onto things. So they may, and in fact, I know some business, they've gone through 4 POS systems in the past year. They keep jumping,
That's a
jumping
huge
because,
mental load.
and I think that's the cost for them. The being an early bird means that you're not just resting on your laurels. You can't just let something go that because you're constantly thinking, I can do better, I can do better, I can do better. And the reality is you need good enough, and then you really need to focus on what your differentiator is for your business. So if I'm a restaurant, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be your food quality and your staff management, not what your POS system is or back of house system is. If your insurance, you got to be focused on getting the word out and referrals and making sure that all your people renew, not doing crazy stunts to try to find brand new people that have never heard of you, right? So I think I think for the early bird. For the late comer, it's they linger too long in a system that's not working, and they're not making change frequently enough, so that they're actually it's hitting them up and affecting their performance. I guess that was is where I was thinking.
I think you raised another interesting point operationally, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's highly applicable to what local business owners have to deal with, and that is the actual literal earliness of employees. And I mean that from a psychological standpoint. Obviously, when I had my first job at, anyone remember from that one episode?
It was
Snickerdoodle.
Yeah, at Snickerdoodle.
Yeah.
That was at Sonic.
Sonic,
And
I knew it was a food place.
should have been a
Wiener Schnitzel. That's what I was trying to say when I said
Wiener Schnitzel. We don't even have those.
Yeah, we do. There's one on Highway 6.
What, really?
Yeah.
Okay. When I started my first job, you hear these platitudes of saying, "Oh, you got to be on time to impress the boss." And obviously, I was never egregiously late, or if something happened, I would text and say, or I would call and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was a terrible accident. I can't get through." But
again,
it all just kind of sounds like, sayings like, "Oh, it's important to be on time." It's so funny. Whenever I started working events and being in charge of those events, there is a psychological thing whenever your helper is there at the same time you're there. You stop equating them as, all right, this is my employee that I have to send and do things. And you start going, we're on the same team. They're here with me doing the thing. And it's so funny where if let's say something starts at 5 and then someone arrives 10 till 5 and they're helping you prep, and then the other employee arrives 10 after 5. I've already made in my decision that this guy is my guy, and wherever I go, that's gonna be my person. There's this psychology when it comes to bonding in teams, where if someone is early with you, as most local business owners have to be, you go, that's it.
Yeah, I think there's some great platitudes around that. One is the world is run by those who show up. I mean, I think it's true. So many times, if you're there and no one else is, you're making the decisions and you're part of the team and you're the one that is contributing and so forth. Early bird gets a worm. That's an old one. But the late sleeping worm lives another day.
I've never heard this one.
It might be an Ericism.
Is that an original one? Those who live to eat a worm will live to eat another.
If you give a worm to a fish, he lives to fish for the rest of his life. These do not make any sense.
If you give a fish to a worm, I don't know if you know.
It's kind of like a stitch in time saves 9. And the way I always thought about that one was a stitch. And I was always thinking like a rift because I was a big Doctor Who fan. And I was like, a rift in time saves 9. 9 what? What are we talking? It never made any sense.
A wormhole.
I find myself a lot of times I'll say these types of sayings. And then when I'm writing an email, I'll find my way in. and I'm like, I write it and I'm like, what is that? What am I saying? Like, what does that mean?
The one that drives, sorry, total non sequitur, the one that drives me crazy, and I don't know where my craw is on my body, but I have so much stuff that sticks in my craw, which is another platitude, is 6 of one, half dozen of another. I'm like, what do you mean? 6 of one or 6 of another? No, it should be 6 of one, half dozen of the same. Come on, get it right. Like,
if I got
6 apples or a half dozen oranges.
If I got $1 million every time
mean?
I've heard that one, I wouldn't be rich.